Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Ward. I'm your host, Peter Ward. This is my show where I come on here and I set up a Sunday morning talk show. Sunday mornings, well, it's morning for me. It's 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern Standard Time. And we come on here, me and my co-host. I have a co-host for that show. We talk about challenging topics and try to drive solutions to those topics. Now, this is not easy to do because we talk about things that are forward-looking into the future. We talk about politics. We talk about capitalism. We talk about technology, innovation, where we're at right now, how we got here. Well, maybe not necessarily how we got here, but we talk about where we can go from here, knowing what we do now, and then kind of giving a baseline, best and worst case scenario to where we should go in the future. So that's the Sunday morning talk show. The whole purpose of the Daily Ward is to come on here and set that show up. So I'm not, grandstanding for 15, 20-minute monologue. I have a monologue at the beginning of every talk show. It's about 5 to 10 minutes long. And if I didn't set the show up for that week, first, I probably would have limited knowledge on some of these topics, like this week's topic is automation. Now, I am economist. I don't have a PhD, but I've studied the markets enough to know. I have a master's in finance, and a bachelor's in economics, but I'm more of just a student of life, and some of the topics that we choose, I let Mike choose. Mike is my co-host, Mr. Mike, and this week's show is about automation and jobs. Now, I know enough about automation to make a few comments here and there. I do not know enough to have a full, in-depth analysis in discovering what automation could or could not look like. I can't do that right now. It's Monday. But on a Sunday show, I will have consumed enough content to be able to comment on that particular topic area. Now, yesterday's show, we did capitalism, how to make it better. I would suggest checking that out. That's something that I know a little bit more about. I actually know about macroeconomic theory in banking, in finance, and how the market works and how the business cycle works and how you can use those things to your advantage. But besides that, I just like learning, and I'm nerdy enough to dive deep enough into things to know a little about a lot, I guess you could say. Now, automation is something that Mike knows way more than me on, so he's probably going to be commenting more. I'm going to try to get him to shut up because most of his ramblings are just that, ramblings. But come to Sunday morning shows, because those are where we really dig into, and we have debates. We have different views and perspectives on how this whole world works and why it should work for the better and how humans can get there. I really think that we can live in maybe not necessarily a full utopian society, because there's, dark and light, and there's a flip side to every coin, and, there's got to be, if somebody's, down, if there's one person that is evil, there's another person that's good. Now, I don't think that's a 50-50 ratio. It's probably more like 80-20. 80% of people are very good stewards of their lives in society, and 20% of people are not necessarily bad, but they don't necessarily contribute to themselves as they should be. And that actually, if you're not contributing to yourself, that's actually probably the other way. But they're not actually contributing to the betterment of their community, their family. So I'm not necessarily saying that they're bad. They just have other outlooks and views in the way that they live their life. What I'm trying to say is that I believe that we can get to a point that's even better than it is now. Now, we've been on a long bull run in the markets. Anybody that pays attention to the markets obviously knows this, that it can't last forever. It can't go on forever. But what if it could? What if we'll be in the same scenario 5 years from now as we are today? Now, that's hard to believe because there needs to be some economic expansion for growth to occur in an economy and to create economies of scale for business, people, creating economic prosperity and opportunity. That comes with growth. Now, we talked about this yesterday in capitalism and making it better, and we kind of formulated, I don't know if we really even got anywhere with that conversation, but we kind of formulated enough of a discussion to get to, as far as I know, that human beings need to kind of change the way that they consume products. I think I'm not necessarily I like materialism because it will drive you to seeing what's possible in your life, but I'm not necessarily one for consumerism. And there's a difference. And that difference is materialism is you want something and you go after it and you obtain it because it's a material that you can manifest in the world. I'm all about it. I'm all about manifestation and your future and having a certain reality that you would like to create. You can do that. You have the opportunity to do that in some first world countries like the United States. Consumerism is just an endless your endless consumption year over year of the same things. Like you want to buy a new TV, but you bought one 2 years ago. What's wrong with the one that you have now? Well, you want the new one. You want to buy a new car. Well, you bought one 2 years ago. What's wrong with that one? Well, you want the new one. The new one has the upgrade. Whatever the upgrade is standard now, right? That is that is more of consumable. Not necessarily a bad thing because you're definitely playing a part in the economic order of things, but it's not necessarily good when we're doing it not in the best interest of the future society. And what I mean by that, I'm not one for climate change. I'm not one for climate change. I've made my arguments and points on climate change before in the past. You can go back to some of my other shows and listen. But I'm one for being a steward of the earth. And not in a sustainable way. I hate the word sustainability. Because that's acting like at some certain point it's going to be unsustainable. I don't believe the earth to be unsustainable. We are partners with the earth. The earth is your partner. Not like the United States government, Uncle Sam is your partner in business because you pay taxes. I'm talking about the earth is your partner. You're divinely connected to the earth. There's not many religions in the world that will say the earth is your partner. But it very much is the case. Your spirit, your soul, your inner self, your higher wisdom, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, it is, it's connected to the planet Earth. This is a heavenly place to live. Once you come to the realization that there's beauty all around you, you start to see the beauty more and more and more and more. And one day, it takes a mindset to do this and an awareness and consciousness. One day, you'll be like, damn, this is magnificent. My life is amazing. This is a beautiful place. I'm creating a magnificent life. When you get to that point, you've probably graduated from the lower realms of consciousness, meaning that you're just doing things for fun. You're just doing things because you have to do them to support your family, which is noble. That's a noble cause. I'm not degrading that. But what I'm trying to say is nothing is going to change for the betterment of humanity until people change. And I brought up yesterday, and when I say people change, I'm talking about a rising of their awareness, a rising of their consciousness to the point where they understand their place in the world and what they're here to do. Some people are just here to exist and, foster an environment of love. Some people are here to foster an environment of hate. I don't know. That's for their individual selves to decide. But the more people that come of the ages, I guess you could say, and really have a higher connectedness to the all of one, which is your soulful essence, then things will start to change. The more people that come online, and when I say online, I mean the real online, not this interaction here, even though the digital realm is nice to get information past. I'm talking about the real online, where you're online and in tune with your soulful essence, which is divinely connected to Mother Earth. So until people make that realization, and people will say, oh yeah, well, I'm a Christian, so I do believe in some of that. Well, no, do you truly believe it? All wholeheartedly. And once you truly have this, revelation in your consciousness, your world changes, first of all. The people around you's world changes. All your conversations change. You start to have experiences that are more amazing, more loving. So until people do these sort of things, make these revelations in their personal life, nothing will change. And I'm talking about people, I'm talking about a mass amount of people. Like more than just 2% of the population, which is what it kind of seems now. So I made the analogy, I made the example yesterday about veganism, the rise of veganism, people eating plant-based foods, and the company Beyond Meat when we were talking about capitalism and how to make it better. I could have used any other sort of, company that is aware of its place and footprint on the earth. Could have used Patagonia. I could have used, I don't know, I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but there's a slew of corporations out there that want to leave the earth better than they found it, and they have products and services that render that message that they're trying to get across, which is, we need to take care of where we're getting these things that we sell to people that consume them, because we have a duty, a rightful duty, to be stewards of where that abundance comes from. So you'll hear the climate change argument all the time. The Democratic Party, I say it like that for a reason. They're using it to pander to people that have been indoctrinated, probably through the education system mostly, but also through the news and propaganda, to believe that the government has the answer for climate change, and they're going to force regulation down your throat until you're blue in the face with what you can and cannot do with your life. And that's taking away your rights, your constitutional rights, first of all, your freedoms, your liberty, what you can and cannot do, your free will, your choice that you have. So I don't necessarily, and that's a bigger government, by the way, more centralized, bigger government with more jobs added. When these people talking about adding jobs, they're talking about adding government jobs. That's what they're doing. They're talking about putting stricter regulation on, free market capitalistic companies that have grown to where they're at because people have decided that that's what they want in their life. That choice. So, the climate change argument is a folly because it's being used. Yes, the climate changes. I'm not doubting that the climate changes. What nobody really knows is what the human impact of climate change really is. No one knows. I've done the research. I'm not even going to get into it in this brief episode on the Daily Ward. I'm supposed to be talking about automation. Well, here we are. So the climate change narrative is being used to foster bigger government ideologies through democratic policies that are detrimental to the free market capitalistic system. Now, we talked about this yesterday quite in depth. I'd recommend you go check that show out. If you can stand listening to two guys argue about capitalism. But there's certain things that we can do as people. First, we can vote with our dollars. And that's where I brought up the Beyond Meat example and veganism. Because 20 years ago, there was no companies making artificial meat, right, for your burgers. And if you're a meat eater and you drink out of plastic straws, you are not the problem. The problem is government trying to tell you what to do. That's the problem. The government can ban plastic straws. They can ban plastic bags. They can ban plastic in your cars, plastics that make food possible. Not now. It would be great. It would be really great if everybody could just, go down to the farmer's market and buy all their food. But in these densely concentrated areas of metropolis, it's a little harder to do that. Not saying that it's impossible. It's totally possible. But we don't need the government to tell us that it's possible and that they're going to force that type of lifestyle down our throat. What you can buy, what you can drive, what you can wear, what you can do. Like, none of that is free will. That's not free choice. That's more enslavement by a bigger government. That's what that is. That's what these people are pushing when they're talking about climate change. They're not talking about the people making a decision to change the world for the better. They're talking about the government forcing the change. And what does that turn into? Well, that turns into a very Stalinistic style of government. Not necessarily commune, where everybody has equal everything, but they're pushing it as democratic socialism. Like, that doesn't exist. They're going to have to burn the Constitution if they really want to do that. That's not how it's going to really work. Okay? And that's probably what they're planning on really doing. And creating a new world order, having one power, and having your movements tracked and everything that you do as a data point, and you have zero freedoms. And they're going to keep chipping away and chipping away and chipping away until you're left with exactly what they want you to be, which is an indebted slave to society, just a consumer of certain things, and you're going to run out of choice in your healthcare. You're going to run out of innovative practices for research and development. We're going to run out of basic human needs being met on a mass scale because there's sanctions and price controls and what's it called when you control the amount of goods, rationing and put in place. And that is the most asinine thing I could ever think of when we're talking about changing the world for the better. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about socialism here. There is no free rides. There has never been a free ride ever in the history of the United States, history of democracies, history of constitutional republics, histories of any type of government faction you could possibly come up with. You are a human in form to do some sort of work to help other people out. Now, that's been evolved into a business, and capitalism in a natural free market way that's been slowly picked apart. So it's going to get picked apart more with automation, and I guess that's the segue into automation. If you have a job, you have a skilled job that can get replaced, not just by robots or machines, but by computers that can replace your job easier. You see that at grocery stores with automated checkout. You have Amazon and Whole Foods talking about you don't even have to go through checkout. You just walk out the store, and whatever you walk out of the store with gets scanned as you walk out. So, this type of technology, it's going to, alleviate some jobs. Yes, it is. But I feel like that when people argue about this point, they really take the human adaptation factor out of how it's going to affect how we live as a society. Take your cell phone example, or your cell phone for example. Nobody really knew that what this would do to people 30 years ago, when cell phones were like your Nokia and Motorola and a phone bag or a big brick, right? So now we're at the point where we have a computer always attached to us. It's a symbiotic relationship. And did people see that necessarily 30 years ago with cellular phone technology? Maybe a few visionaries that pushed that, and here we are. And it has evolved into everything that we do is on the phone. Now, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about automation and how hard it is going to be for any futurist to really understand the full brunt and impact of, automation in jobs, Web 3.0, where computers, build themselves, servers and networks build themselves, internal, enclosed and open source, right? So it's not as scary to me as most people make it out to believe. Like, it's the full Matrix and these machines are going to build themselves a Terminator. Like, maybe, but I really and you could see that already with some of these robot companies, but I really think that there's a lot of human behavioral involvement in this, and that people are becoming more aware of where they're at in their psyche and less focused on, living the same way we did in the 1980s, which is a very consumeristic style of society where not too many people are paying attention to anything that really happens outside of their little world, which is this now. It's not the mall anymore. This is their little world. And everything that happens inside of that enclosed loop system, which is the internet. So, should be an interesting topic of conversation. And I hope you come to Sunday morning's show. I'm going to be setting it up some more later this week. Probably a little bit more clear on the exact direction of that show on Sunday as far as 3 talking points, but I really didn't have that today. It was more of an explanation of and a segue from yesterday's show into automation. So I hope you enjoyed. Please come back, ask some questions. It's a live show on Sunday, so you can ask questions. Q&A. There's a Q&A portion, and if we missed you on the Q&A, sorry, we'll get to you next week. And if anything, leave some questions and comments in the comment section. And all I will ever ask you to do for the Wardroom live channel is hit the subscribe button. If you like the comment, if you like the content, you'll keep coming back and make comments. Like these people that the first thing that they do when they get on YouTube is ask you to subscribe and smash the like button. Like, dude, no. Now that you told me to do that, I'm not going to do it. So I will never tell you to do anything other than just subscribe, share with people, and get the conversation rolling. We're doing this to drive conversations. A lot of these topics are not easy to cover, first of all, and they're not easy to find solutions to. So we're trying to drive the conversation that you might have at the water cooler or with your other intellectual friends that sit around and talk about whatever. Look, economics is not necessarily the funnest topic in the world, but it's so important because you're in the economic system. And a lot of people don't even understand how it works. And then they'll argue about whatever mute point that they've been indoctrinated to believe when they have no idea about finance, about the technology they even use. Like, I get it. You don't need to know how to change the oil in a car to know how to drive a car. But you'd have at least a basic understanding of how the car works. Same thing. You don't need to know necessarily how programming works and how, data is left out for companies to scrape your data exhaust and use for you, against you, with you, to help you. But you should have a baseline knowledge of how that works. So that's what we're really trying to promote here. It's just further pushing of knowledge that you should be aware of, because the world changes faster than you could blink an eye. And if you keep doing the same thing for 10 years, you're going to be 10 years behind everybody else. So I hope we're doing that for everyone. We're pushing a conversation, and you get to have some debates with your friends. Have a debate with us. Come to the show Sunday. I'll see you all there. I'm Peter Ward. This has been the Daily Ward. Thank you for showing up and listening and watching, and I'll see you all next time.